Hello there, it's Simone. I'm so glad you're here today. I want to show you this notebook today and give you a little review on what I like and what I don't like about this. I found this notebook or saw this notebook first on Gourmet Pens. What is so special about it is that it is made with Regalia paper, a proprietary paper to this company, Endless. And I was curious because they claim that this is the most ink-friendly notebook out there. Let's start with looking at the back and all the info. It is 80 GSM acid-free Regalia paper. This is a hardcover notebook. It has, I requested blank pages, 187 of those. If you would get, this is also available in lined and grid. If you would get those, they were numbered, but not with the blank pages. And the back, there's 16 pages in the back that are perforated. The blank notebook comes with a ruled and squared guider sheet, which is this one, and the grid spacing is 7 millimeters, as well as the line spacing is 7 millimeters. There is an inner pocket, as well as the size, which I'll get to in just a second. When you receive your Regalia notebook, it comes with this thank you card that has a sticker included, as well as a possibility to register your notebook. I'm not really sure what this would do. I was super intrigued by this paper and by that review on that YouTube channel that I reached out to them, and they were so kind enough to send this notebook to me so I could do a proper review. However, when I got this, I noticed that I didn't have any hardcover notebooks because I usually don't use them never really had the reason why I should use some. So I purchased 2 more. This was free. I bought more. So no, that wasn't a great idea. I went on Amazon and got these 2. This is a Leuchtturm 1917 and a Dingbatz notebook. I just wanted to compare how this is built, if everything that I noticed that was questionable or maybe a quality issue was just something that comes with a hardcover notebook. And yes, it does. So when all the places where the signatures are together, right, like so, there is glue, excess glue coming out, and then when you have to actually get this out. So this is what it looks like, and I was, wow, what is this notebook? But this is with all of those, with both of those as well. This happens with them as well. It's not every page, it's just at the meeting point where one and another signature gets together. This is probably how the binding is done, and this is just what happens. So if you have experience with hardcover notebooks, that is just how they are made. The elastic here is this teal turquoise color. It is just works fine, doesn't feel like it's coming off anytime soon. There is this embossing on the front and then Endless on the back. So it usually comes with 2 bookmarks that are usable. I removed them because they had already started to come off, so I decided to just remove those. But other than this, that the construction of this notebook is absolutely regular. If I compare them, I know that the let's say, how do they call this? Leatherette cover is thicker than on the Leuchtturm. It's more comparable to the Dingbat's notebook. And so, yeah, I don't think that this is just a regular, well-made hardcover notebook. So, it claims to be, there is size. Let's talk about the size. This one is true A5 size. This is the Endless. It is minimal, but it is not true A5 size. I don't think it would, if you use this without a cover, that's barely noticeable. So it's actually a non-issue, but just to be correct, it is not 100% A5 size. The claims that the Regalia paper makes are the following: 7 amazing reasons why you will love Regalia. The paper is proprietary to the company. It is an Indian-based company. You can get these notebooks through various different retailers here in the US. I think I saw them on Amazon, but you can get them at Goulet Pens. I saw them on Pen Chalet. I think I saw them on Vanessa. So where you get your fountain pens, you can also get this notebook. So what are the claims? Super smooth 80 GSM paper. It is very sturdy and flexible. And yes, it is very smooth. There is some kind of coating on top of it. And it is also very easily to use. It is acid-free paper. Yes, that is important if you want your information to last, but I know that this paper is also acid-free. The Dingbat's notebook paper is acid-free, so that's not something that stands out as a specialty for this notebook. There is many other notebooks that you can purchase that are the same. Zero ghosting. So I prepared some pages to compare. I test my notebooks on fountain pen ink, watercolor, and stamping. And just to take it away right from the start, yes, this paper holds up to all of them really nicely. There is barely any ghosting. There's no well, maybe this date stamp ghosts, but there's no ghosting, no bleed through on the stamping. Yes, there is, if there is too much water, and I put a lot of water onto those places here, there is some warping of the paper. It doesn't claim not to warp when wet, so, but I just wanted to test and see how watercolor would perform. Works really well. With the inks, so what other claims are there? Zero ghosting, we had that, and that is definitely basically true. Zero bleed through, absolutely correct. Zero feathering, yes, that is correct too. And high shading. So I used these 3 inks to test this. And yes, there is shading here. The chromo shading inks come out really nicely. I will show you comparison to other papers in just a second. I then tested the Pilot Custom 74 with Diamond Ancient Copper. And yes, you can see how well the shading comes out. A high shading and high sheen. Absolutely true as well. I hope you can see how the sheen on this ink here, the Diamond Black Ivy, is just very noticeable and visible. The dry time of the watercolor as well as the stamps was long. I love VersaFine most, but that also took about 30 minutes. When I stamped this and then I looked at it 30 minutes later, I will put a video where you can see how wet it still was after about 30 minutes. So if you are someone who needs this to be done right away, I would suggest maybe using the Versa Magic because it really takes a long time for this ink to dry. So it really performs amazingly. It says Regalia is the richest experience you're going to have on paper. And yes, it's probably true. You can hear the sound the paper makes. It feels very thick and very substantial in my hand. So would I recommend this notebook? Absolutely. Would I go out and abandon any notebooks that I have in my stash for this? Probably not. But I would definitely consider this as an option when I'm going out to purchase a notebook. So let's lastly just compare the papers that I tested this on. This is what Cosmo Air Light looks like. This is 75 GSM. This is the sound this paper makes. So it is fairly comparable. I was most reminded when I used the Regalia paper of Cosmo Air Light. It feels like many of the negative things that I observe with Cosmo Air Light paper, specifically when I write, the feeling of dragging your feet through mud. It doesn't feel the same on here. It's less noticeable. It is there, but not as strong as on the Cosmo Air Light. And also the hand oil issue. When I use Cosmo Air Light, I need a blotting paper or something underneath my hand and fingers because it will progressively get worse down the page, that the ink kind of has a resist with the hand oils that are transferred from my hand onto the paper. That is an issue with many papers, but it is very, very noticeable with Cosmo Air Light. I had this issue once, but it was just minimal, and I did not use any paper when I wrote this, and you can see it did not even, there's nothing different. It worked all the way through the same, if that makes sense. So I have this is what the shading looks like on the Cosmo Air Light. It's very similar. I would say that the blues on this paper, especially in the Altgold Grün, come out more than on this. It looks more yellowy on this paper. And then, of course, I just wanted to see, this is another 80 GSM paper. This is the Regalia dot pad. What it would look like if I made the same ink swatches on here. And you can see that the property of this paper and this paper are very, very different. It feels like this paper acts like a sponge and sucks in the ink, whereas this sits on top. The shading, especially with the black ivy down here, look at how red the sheen is on this paper. Here it's barely noticeable, just a hint of shading. There is some sheening, that's what I'm talking about, in the writing, but still not as prevalent as it is on here. And then lastly, with the stamping and the watercolor, this Regalia dot pad worked really well. The Cosmo Air worked really well. It also did not show very much ghosting. There is some, definitely more than on the Regalia, where there was none. The Regalia does show ghosting and almost bleed through on this one. And then this is where we all come from, I assume. This is the Tomoe River paper. It is 52 GSM, so of course it is much thinner. There is ghosting on most of those inks. There is bleed through here. There's bleed through here. There is, of course, crinkling because of the water. And then let me show you the ink swatches. So here is, this ink swatch is on white Tomoe River paper. If I compare this with this one, then what I notice is that the pinks are more visible in the writing, and the teal looks brighter, but that could also just be the way that I applied the ink. It does look really nice on both of those. The Black Ivy I have right here, this is in a cream colored Weeks. There's shading is really nice on this one as well, but it doesn't really, there is, of course, with ink swatches in 52 GSM Tomoe River paper, it's almost ghosting. Sometimes it bleeds through. And then let me just find the Alt Goldgrün here. Again, same as what I noticed on the Cosmo Airlight is that here it seems like the yellow undertones that are visible in this swatch right here are lost in the in the Regalia paper. Just one more thing. This is how white the Regalia paper is. Of course, the cream paper, it is not cream. This is 52 GSM white Tomoe River paper, and this is 75 GSM Cosmo Airlight. So it feels kind of almost like a tiny bit off-white, but it is very white compared to many of the papers that we are used to. I think that was all that I wanted to show you today. I really like this notebook. I was thinking about using it for a art journal, but I am not really sure that I enjoy this paper with watercolor. So that's definitely not going to happen, but I do love writing with this on this. I love how this looked like. We will see what it ends up with. I still have lots of notebooks that I want to use. So there's that. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to know if you have used Regalia paper, what your thoughts are, and if you would buy one of those as your next journal. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you soon. Until then, bye.